Hey there, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to be putting together February 21st through 27th in my project life for 2022. This is the final week of February, so I'm going to be using the February Stories by the Month kit from Ali Edwards. This year, I'm using these kits for the final week of the month, every month, because these kits have a lot of repetition in them throughout the year. I thought it would be a good way to really kind of end the month, and they have some like reflection cards. So what I wanted to show you here, so I printed out my photos and some journaling, and I have my kit here. I just have these kits in these trays, so I try to reuse things whenever I can. So this is a tray from, it's actually a box from Archer and Olive from a journal. And these came from like this journal that was this size, and so there's a top and a bottom, and I've been using them for these Stories by the Month kits because they're just the perfect size to fit 2 4x6 stacks, 2 3x4 stacks, and then something else in here. So it's just, you know, whatever I have on hand, so that I can keep the kit kind of together when I'm working with it and move it around on my desk easily. So this is the week in here, and as you know, I always take this out of the album to work on it, but before I do that, I wanted to flip back because this is the end of January, and I wanted to look at this because I'm going to use some repetition throughout the year. So I'm going to kind of push that up a little bit and go through here. So I know I want to use this card, which is a repetition of that one, as my title card for this week. So I'm just going to put that to the side. None of these other 4x6 ones are repeated, so I'm gonna just keep those in here for now. But the 3x4 cards, there's a lot of repeated ones. So I'm using this one because I'm gonna use this one every month as a kind of reflection of the month. So I'm putting that to the side. Same with this one. I'm gonna use this one to write out 5 things I'm grateful for from that month, just like I did in January. I'm doing that differently from this one because this one is going to be more of like an overview of the month, especially feeling wise. And this one is going to be specific events that happened. This card, I'm going to use this again, just like I did in January. I'm going to use it just to tell a story from the week. This time what I did, you can see in January, I just hand wrote there. I actually typed up some journaling, and I'm going to, I printed on vellum, and I'm going to crop it out and adhere it on here, but that's the one that I did for this card. So it's just a little bit of a different way to use it than I did in January. And then let's see here. There's also this card. So I'm going to use this card just like I did in January to do my weekly overview of, you know, just bullet point notes from that week. The rest of the kit I may or may not use. But those are the ones that I'm setting aside because I am going to use those. I'm going to use them consistently throughout the year just to have some continuity throughout my album. So now I'm going to flip back to this week and pull this out of here and go ahead and start working on the page. I'm going to put you on fast forward and start putting this together.
Okay, so the first step is just laying out the cards that I know I'm going to use because they're the repeated ones from each week, or each month, I mean. And then I'm cropping out my photos. As I've mentioned in previous videos, I print my photos at home on 8.5 by 11 Pro Luster paper. From Canon, which is what I like best because it is not too glossy, but it still has enough of a glossy coat that it feels like a photo rather than a lot of the matte photo paper seems almost just like cardstock. So you'll see here in a second that I miscounted when planning out this page and I printed too many photos. So I didn't think that at first, but part of the problem was I had planned out some of my journaling and I typed my journaling up on vellum and printed it out. And because I did that, I had to pick ahead of time some of the journaling cards that I was going to use. And so you can see there, I have that extra 3x4 photo. And then I think, oh, I have another 4x6 spot that I can put it in because I miscounted my 3x4 pockets. But that's because I forgot that I had printed some journaling to put a 4x6 card. So you'll see that in a minute and what I end up doing. But first I was thinking, okay, I can put 2 3x4s in this pocket here, which is something that I do often if I want to include more 3x4s. Sometimes I forget that that's an option. But with the 4x6 pockets, you can always adhere 2 3x4s onto a 4x6 backer and use that for your to add more 3x4s in. But then I realized I had this 4x6 card that says good things and hard things, and I had typed up some journaling for that on vellum. And so I have this extra photo that I can't use, and I end up just not using it, which is totally fine. I saved it, and I might end up putting it in another album or just not using it at all, which is totally fine too. So now I'm going through and rearranging my cards. Once I have selected everything that's going to be in my spread, I like to rearrange them and get a general sense of where they belong on the page. So you'll see I'm trying to balance out the lighter or white space cards and photos with the darker ones. So for example, that one that I was touching there that says moments, it's a darker card. So I wanted it near a light card. Like that February gratitudes, but I really struggled with it a bit on the spread. For some reason, sometimes I struggle a bit more and other times it's easier for me. So I was really struggling because there were a lot of darker cards and darker photos that I really felt like there wasn't enough white balanced on the spread. So now I'm trimming down my journaling. I have a few typed up journaling. I also have 2 spots with typed up journaling that I don't show on this video because I want to blur that journaling, the hard things, and the card that's in my hand there that says this happened, which is just a recap of the month of February from like a feeling standpoint. So sometimes I want to keep things private in my project life, but I do want to share my process videos on here. So I'm trying to come up with ways that I can still share this content with you while keeping some of those words private. And I think that this worked pretty well. So now I'm still just trying to figure out how I want these things laid out. I really like to have, especially in the 3x4 pockets, the light cards with the white background next to a darker photo or darker base. Now that I have all my cards, I'm going through the embellishments and coming up with what I want on my spread. So I picked out some of the chipboard pieces at first. I'm trying to use up a lot of these kits this year. So I really want to go through the embellishments and see what I can get to work on my spread. And so I used a decent amount of the chipboard, but not all of them. And then I'm going through these hearts and pulling them out. So I really didn't like that yellow one. So I decided I wasn't going to use it at all. But I do like the 3 pink ones. So I want, or the, yeah, three pink ones and the green one. So I laid those out. And now I'm looking at the word phrase strips that came in the kit and trying to decide how I want to do my embellishments. You can see I rearrange the cards pretty frequently. Sometimes the spread just kind of comes together for me, and other times I struggle with it a bit. This one I struggled with the layout. So because I wasn't going to use that heart, I decided to test out stamping on it and decided that the stamping worked well. So I used my rolling date stamp to put the dates on that pink heart. And then I added some silver washi from my stash just to kind of ground it a bit. Sometimes when I have an embellishment like that that's kind of floating in the middle of a card, I like to have something to kind of ground it so that it doesn't look like it's just kind of lost out there. So I adhered that down, and then I'm just going through and working one card at a time, adhering everything together and figuring out what I want the spread to look like. So this one was a smaller photo that I printed that I could back on a card there. And I'm going to go back to it and add some embellishments in a bit. But I just kind of am skipping around and adhering down the things that I know I'm going to include before I decide what else I want to do. So when I'm working on Project Life, I often try to follow a formula from pocket to pocket. Now, not every pocket is going to have the exact same embellishment cluster because I do like some variety, but I like to pull from a menu of options. So because I'm working with a kit, I use the kit as my original menu. So that means these wood veneer hearts, the word phrase strips, and the chipboard pieces were my starting point. But then I'm going to decide what else I want to include with those embellishment clusters to really make them stand out. First, I decided to do my journaling though. So I did do a lot of type journaling, but I'm doing these 2 cards handwritten. So I pulled out the stamp from the kit that says currently and stamped it multiple times on this card here. And this is the card I'm going to use to do my recap of just a few little details of what happened this week and the different stories that I wanted to tell that weren't on the other cards. So this happened card and that February gratitude card are going to be recaps of the entire month. That February card that is like a craft color is journaling about our Monday because we did a college tour for my daughter, which is that lower left-hand pocket photo. And then the good things and hard things, we're journaling about some larger stories this week. And then I used that moments card to tell some of the smaller stories from this week that didn't necessarily have photos to go with them. And then on here, I'm doing some recaps of gratitude for larger stories that happened this month. So I'm just thinking of an overview of some of the facts of some of my highlights or my favorite things that happened during the month of February and putting those on that card there. So then I went over to my stash and pulled out these Color Theory label stickers from Studio Calico because I wanted to add a little bit more journaling on some of my photos. And I'm starting with this one here. So when I said before that I like to use kind of an embellishment cluster or a menu of options, now that I pulled over these Color Theory stickers, I'm going to use those as my kind of menu to pull from when working on other cards. I also pulled over these Kelly Purkey alpha stickers. These are some of my favorites. I stocked up on them before she closed her shop and I use them often. And I wanted to create a little title here that said cousins because this is a photo of my daughter and her cousins because they were passing through town and they stopped by her work. And then I pulled out these stickers from Planner Kate. I absolutely love these little, I don't even know what that shape is called, but I really love them. They just add a little bit of detail. And so I'm using them as an embellishment there. I do often use them as bullet points for lists, but you can see there I put 3 of them in a line and just use that kind of to embellish that little cluster. So now I'm moving on to this negative COVID test, thankfully negative, for my daughter and adding a little bit of journaling. And again, I'm just using my menu of embellishments that I have to pull from and create a little cluster here. So you can see it's not exactly the same as my cluster on one of the other cards, but it is still pulling from that same menu, so it's going to be cohesive. Then I'm adding this chipboard on here, and this chipboard has room to add some words. So I had pulled out this stamp set, and I'm stamping on here college tour. And then I'm going to add one of the word phrase strips, again, to pull from that same menu of options so that all the cards tie together. But I really liked how that came out with the stamping on there. And I tried another sticker at the top and I felt like it didn't work. So I end up going with another one of those little carrots, I think maybe they're called. Now I'm moving on to the other side of the spread and adding to this embellishment cluster with the chipboard there. So the chipboard pieces from Ali Edwards no longer have the adhesive on the back. And while I feel like it's a little annoying to put the adhesive on yourself, it allows you to remove it from the photo a bit more. So I was able to lift it up and put that label sticker underneath it, which gives me a lot more flexibility, and I really liked that. For this card here, I had taken 2 screenshots of front pages from the Washington Post and the Times-Union, which is our local newspaper, and wanted to include some things that were in the news, both nationally and locally this week. And so I'm stamping on here in the news and putting this chipboard on there. And again, that's following that same kind of formula because I had used that same stamp set on the other chipboard. And then I tried that same thing again with the 2 word phrase strips, and it just doesn't work. I don't know why I kept trying it. And then moving on to this card here, I have another little label sticker to add a few additional words to explain this photo. And again, a chipboard piece, and just working through the various options of what I have to pull from to create that embellishment cluster. So now I think my spread is almost entirely done. I'm just adhering these words down. And once I'm off camera, I will adhere the words to those last 2 pockets. But now I'm just going to take a final look at everything. And then I'm going to go ahead and put everything into the pockets. That's always kind of the final step in trimming things down and making sure that they fit. And I like how everything looks in the pockets. I'm not sliding those 2 in because I'm going to add those words once I'm off camera. But otherwise, the spread is done. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and please let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Thanks for being here.